Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
And as we finish up this month with our Rise of Skywalker talk, I feel like this is what, the fifth show in a row, right? I think.
Yeah.
We've got our final guest on the show. She's never been on the show before.
Yeah.
And very excited to have her on here. Hannah, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great.
Great.
We'll get into a little background here for you, but for those of you to introduce her, she's a coworker of ours now for I don't know what, about 6 or 7 months now. I think. Have you been there?
Since July, yes.
July.
Oh, wow.
See, time flies.
Yeah.
But unbeknownst to me, for a long time, Hannah is a huge Star Wars fan, and we've been dying to really have a female presence on the show and perspective. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Hannah. First off, let's get to meet you a little bit here. Talk about your background. How long have you been into Star Wars? What's your favorite? Well, we'll get into favorite movies later, but just what do you consume? How do you consume it? Go.
All right, sounds good. Well, first off, thank you very much. I'm honored to come on your show, so thank you for that. My father first introduced me to the original trilogy, and then I don't think I really got into it until Revenge of the Sith came into theaters. My dad took me out of school early so I could see it opening night. And then since then, I got hooked. I didn't really get into Star Wars lore until I started going to the Star Wars weekend events in Disney.
Oh, nice.
Because I realized at that point, oh, wow, there's a lot of Star Wars I don't know. And
Are you from Florida?
No, I'm actually from outside of Philadelphia.
That's right. Okay, I didn't think so. I actually know Hannah for this. I know Hannah from college.
That's right.
We went to school together.
I didn't think she was
Freaking
from
small
Florida.
world, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I found out, she actually went to Disney like every year of her life.
That's great. Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to.
No, you're fine. And then since doing those weekends, I've really have dived into reading Star Wars novels, and then the movies, and then the shows as they trickled out. So, in a nutshell, that's my history with Star Wars.
So, yeah, and a big addition to the show, I feel like, in the near future is I've been feeding Hannah the novels.
Yes.
Because I buy them all, and I don't read them. I listen to the audiobooks. Yeah. So they've just been sitting on my shelf. So now they have a reason to be read. So Hannah, I'm hoping that we can get more book reviews going, because it just takes me longer to listen to. And you've gone through the entire Thrawn trilogy, right? Already?
Yes.
And then you're on Dark Disciple right now.
Sweet. I just finished it, actually.
Sweet.
Boom. Okay, so we can talk about that here in a little bit. That's because that's one of my favorite.
Yeah.
It could be my favorite novel of the canon series right now. I put that right up next to Master and Apprentice, and Bloodline and stuff like that. Next, I got to get you going on the Aftermath trilogy. That's
it's pretty foundational.
Yes, it's very instrumental in what's been going on as far as the state of the galaxy with Mandalorian and the sequel trilogy. It's like what has happened since the Battle of Jakku. So it's fantastic.
Can't wait to start it.
Yes, I'll bring it to you tomorrow.
Awesome.
All right. So speaking of novels, let's talk about that a little bit, because I do have that listed as some of our news here, because they have announced some book releases coming in 2020. First off, the Rise of Skywalker novelization, the expanded edition, is still still planning on hitting bookshelves on March 17th. I don't, really confusing why it's been 3 months since the movie comes out that this thing hits the shelves, but I am stoked to get into that. I think I did the novelizations for Force Awakens, and I think the Last Jedi action novelization is really good, even though I'm not very high on the movie.
Right.
But this is I'm so looking forward to this, because I think there's going to be so much more insight with Leia. I mean, because
Hope so. Yeah.
I think there's going to be more with Leia actually.
Yeah. Because why not?
Why can't you? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
and I think there's going to be more resistance things that we didn't see, like the lack of Rose. I think there could possibly be a lot more of her in this. You know, of course, more with Rey and Kylo's thought process through the whole thing. I think I'm interested about Palpatine, how much we might get more backstory with him and stuff like that. So looking forward to that for sure. Just announced, I think yesterday, right, was a new Poe Dameron young adult novel that we're getting.
Yes.
Did you see that, Hannah?
I did see that, and I'm very excited to learn more about Poe and being a spice runner.
Yes. So this is a young Poe Dameron,
like a teenager Poe. Then
I don't know when. I don't know when it takes place per se. I don't know if you saw that at all.
Well, I thought I read. I don't know if I'm someone. I don't know if story group or not, but was around like late teens when he joined.
Yes.
Maybe not the Resistance at the time, but maybe New Republic.
The New Republic. Yeah, he was a fighter in the New Republic.
Cool.
So it's called Poe Dameron Freefall.
Okay.
That'll hit shelves on August 4th. So it's a young adult novel, not an adult novel, young adult novel. Which I gotta say, these young adult novels are really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'll talk about Force Collector here in a second because I got through that. Interesting news that came out today. I think Casey, you just mentioned it. The new Thrawn book that starts the new Thrawn trilogy that Timothy Zahn is doing.
Yep.
The release date got pushed back. It was supposed to be out in May. It is now not hitting shelves till October 6th.
Right. And they said just because of scheduling issues, which I don't know. I don't know what that means, but
what scheduling issues?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like I don't know. I could guess, but I don't know.
I have one theory is that they're gonna hype up the pre-release at Celebration in August.
That's true. They could definitely do that. The Del Rey or Star Wars made a Facebook post about it's just scheduling adjustments. Doesn't impact the book itself because they're already working on book 2. So, I mean, just I don't know if they have a specific lineup of books that they have to. I don't know, like movies, I guess. How maybe they don't want to conflict with themselves. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't know how that works, but
so it's. I'm assuming it's pretty fresh in your head, Hannah. How did you rate or what did you think of the Thrawn trilogy that you just finished?
I thought it was incredibly well written, and I think Zahn. One thing I really do appreciate about Zahn and the world that he created with Thrawn, pretty much, is that, or rather expanded on, is that we finally see some kryptonite for the Jedi,
right?
And that's something that's always bothered me personally. Is of course you want to root for the Jedi, you want them to win, you want good to conquer evil. But it always seemed a little too easy. It always seemed like, oh, well, you just swing around a laser sword and bada bing, bada boom, you're good. So, so the fact that we now have kryptonite, there's now weakness that could threaten the Jedi and the Sith, to be honest, is encouraging, and it heightens the stakes.
Yeah, because one of those things that he brought over into canon. That Zahn did was the cortosis, cortosis ore. So I was so excited to read that, and when it started in Thrawn Treason, Thrawn Alliances. That was really cool, and I thought I looked it up, and I think it might have been actually referenced in something else, but very obscurely, maybe canon wise. But anyways, this is like the full blown like bringing cortosis into it. But it was kind of set only during I think the Clone War side of the book, right? Like it was only in the flashbacks.
That is correct.
Right?
Yes.
Like I want them to like. I wonder if that will come back, like current, like wherever. Project Luminous is in the past, but like I don't know anything more in the current timeline. I wonder, to see it again because that was cool. I like that. The only other thing that they would have to bring into canon is, and I need to look up how to pronounce this word, but it's the animal that Zahn created in the old EU for Thrawn. It's like called Yulsamari or Yulsalamiri. Maybe it has a much more simple pronunciation. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. But it's like a creature that projects a 10-meter anti-force bubble, basically. That was pretty cool. So you kind of see it in they're like salamander type things, I think, or like a monkey. I can't remember. There's an old Thrawn toy that had it, but in the in Rebels,
right? Yeah,
when Thrawn has statues of them.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're exactly. I don't think they're exactly called out. Like,
no, they're reptilian looking kind of things, right?
In that they are, and I think that's what they were saying. Like that's kind of like what this animal is supposed to be, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's like officially canon that these creatures now exist, and they still have the same abilities. But they kind of had little Easter eggs, at least in Rebels. But very cool, yeah.
So which of the three did you like the most?
Alliance.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah. So that's the second one, right? The middle one.
Yeah, Alliance. Yeah. I just loved the parallels and also the switcheroos, for lack of a better word, between the current timeline and the past timeline. And I just found it so fascinating how Thrawn and Anakin's relationship, it's so similar but yet so different between the two timelines. And also, I like one thing I really appreciated about the Clone Wars and what I appreciated about that book is we explore more of Anakin and Padme's relationship. That's something that I felt like could always have been more explored more. And in this book, you understand how deep their connection truly is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's definitely pretty good. I love especially when I got into it last year. I got into it before, I visited Batuu at Disney World, right? So it was great. Yeah, it was great to read about it and heighten that excitement of going and seeing this place.
That was cool as well.
Yeah. Now, Hannah, you have been to Batuu. Right?
Yes, I have been to Batuu.
I'm the only one that
Casey's
hasn't.
the only one that hasn't.
I read all about it.
Yeah.
You need to get there soon, man.
I know. Yeah.
Book passage.
Speaking of the Clone Wars, you mentioned Dark Disciple. You just finished. I've praised on the show how much I love Dark Disciple. Hannah, will you agree that Asajj Ventress, the character, is fantastic?
All I have to say is I sobbed at the end of the book. That's all I'm going to say. Oh my gosh, I feel like that book really does a lovely salute to her and her character, and you do appreciate her so much more after reading that book.
Absolutely, and I hope, which I don't think we're going to get Asajj
in these new episodes.
Really.
I don't
because because her story was somewhat closed, I think, towards the end, where she chose that new life as a bounty hunter, and that's where it picks up when this novel, with this novel. So I just don't see where it would. I don't know. I could be surprised maybe, but I don't see her. We don't see her in any promotional materials yet or anything like that. So
just because of where Anakin and Obi-Wan are in that, I have a feeling we're not going to see her in the upcoming season of Clone Wars.
Yeah. I agree. I think so. I think Maul's right in there on the poster, so I think it's more or less going to be focusing on Maul towards the end as we get into Mandalore. But so I just finished Force Collector this evening, which is a young adult novel that came out prior to the Rise of Skywalker. You had finished this already too, right, Case?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a couple of months.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously I don't want to spoil anything, but got to say this was really good. I really liked this book, and I dare to say that I actually liked it more than Resistance Reborn.
Yeah,
This hit the Force theory in so many different ways.
Yeah.
With his abilities, and this takes place, I think, a couple years before, or maybe a year or two before Force Awakens.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not like
right before,
like moments before, kind of coinciding a little bit. Probably right before it though, at least, because it connects it indirectly, like Jakku, Takodana, stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure it's right before at least the movie. But
there's one part I want to ask you, because so this isn't really spoiling anything. I mean, it's I am going to reveal something, but it's not really a spoiler to the plot. But so he does make his way to Takodana and meets Maz Kanata in her castle. So there's you have to refresh. Do you remember this part? It's the part where he touches a medal, and sees the ceremony, of A New Hope. So it's the medal. It's one of the medals that either Han or
I'm pretty sure it's Han's
Luke,
medal.
Well, so that's where I'm confused, because he said Carr, who is the character, the lead character, the boy in there, he talks as if it was Luke's.
Gosh, I can't remember.
And then she says that swindler Han said it was his, but I think he gave her Luke's.
I guess that's right. Yeah, because that's what I thought it was Han's. Yeah. Okay.
So he must have taken Luke's and gave it to her. I was like, what? Really?
But then,
because she was like, that scoundrel swindler told me it was his. So she doesn't know. I don't think she knows that he got a medal for blowing up the Death Star. I think she knew it was Luke. You know what I mean? Like it sounded like she didn't believe he had one. So, but then it was weird. It was cool because, she ends up giving Chewie, I guess Han's.
She has them all. She has just maybe it's Luke still. I don't know at that point. Yeah,
I don't know. That was pretty funny when I was listening to that.
That book does have a lot of great. And that's what I love most about it is its connections. Which the story itself about Carr and what his journey is cool. It's unique. But it's not like a grand epic story. It's pretty low key, I would say. And there's First Order, there's stuff like that. There's talks of the Greater War a little bit, but it's not like a threat. There's no threat of First Order. It's just this kid going on his journey and just having a hard time figuring who he is, and which is a great, common, awesome part of Star Wars. But the connections are awesome. There's so many. It connects everything.
Yeah, it does.
Like every era, and it's and I love that so much.
I do too. So check that book out. That's out there. Force Collector. Moving into real quick, staying on the publication side, on the comic side, there's some big comics getting ready to debut. Star Wars #2 just dropped yesterday. And that has a big controversy on it now because of the last panel in that issue. I just started reading tonight. Actually, I was reading #1, which takes place immediately after The Empire Strikes Back. So this volume 2 of Star Wars series now is filling the gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which is about a year. So I'm not sure how many issues we're going to get of it, but it does. I mean, literally, when they jump into hyperspace, this issue takes place. So it's before Luke gets his hand back, but he's reeling after the discovery of Vader, saying he's his father. Han, frozen in carbonite, and they couldn't save him. So they're, Chewie's pissed off. He's like yelling all over the place. It's really good, but I haven't read the second. I don't think anybody here has read the second issue yet. So we will. No. We'll talk about that when we both when all of us get to read it and kind of talk about it. Really, but the speculation is that somebody there. I don't know how much. If you haven't seen it,
the last image.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, go look at it.
It's out there.
It's out there.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's something to do with Luke's lightsaber, and I'm very interested in where that story is going.
I didn't even consider of course, it makes total sense that they would explain in this gap at least where it went and how it got to maybe Maz. If we'll go that far,
I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Well, that's one of the questions out there is how did she get it?
And honestly, I thought that was going to be answered in Force Collector. You said the same thing, Dave.
I did.
Because it turned to be actually it's another slight spoiler of the film. It's not a big plot thing at all, but the character Carr has to deliver a package, and again, this is a small
from
part.
Doc Onder.
Doc to Maz, and it's C-3PO's arm.
Yes.
So it's weird and random, but
so that explains why he has the red arm.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's how he got it back. Is that Maz was like, "Oh, here's your arm." Yeah. So whatever. I don't know how that worked out, but
yeah.
I thought, oh, it's the box that has Luke's lightsaber, and that's how she got it. But no,
it wasn't that.
Man.
So maybe it ends up somewhere that Maz gets it. Maybe Maz has it for 30 years. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Doc got it as well. Who knows?
Yeah, true. Doc would probably end up getting it at some point. But that is out there. Star Wars number 2 is out there. The Rise of Kylo Ren, I think it's number 3, drops February 12th here coming up. And then the new Vader series, Vader number 1, we drop in February 5th. So that's volume 3 of this new canon, and that is also going to take place parallel to Star Wars, similar to how they did the first volumes after New Hope. They're going to run parallel, so same sequences. It's really great how they do that because you get perspective both on Luke's and the Rebel side as well as Vader and the Empire side of the events that happen. So those are some big issues coming out here very soon. The other couple of bit of news before we get into our main topic here. Ewan McGregor, who's doing a bunch of press tour interviews for Birds of Prey right now, has kind of quelled some of the rumors going around out there that Obi-Wan series is canceled or postponed and whatnot. So they did move the shoot dates. Everything's still on track for release of 2021, but they are not shooting this thing until almost a year from now, basically first of next year in January. Now, they were planning on shooting in like July, August.
Right.
So 4 or 5 months delayed, not delayed, but they're just kind of reshaping some stuff.
But they're still going to air it the same day.
Same day.
They didn't move that.
They did not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So which makes you kind of start speculating that it could be lesser episodes.
Yeah.
Could be 4 instead of 6 like they're talking about, or maybe it is just a one big movie or something like that. But and then you guys talked about it earlier in the week about what's the series you guys talked about, or like
the Sherlock Holmes series.
Maybe it's 3 1 hour and 1.5 hour pieces.
Basically 3 movies at once. Yeah. Yeah, that would be nuts. And like and I know I think Hannah watches it more than I do, but they're kind of connected. The 3 episode, they still call them episodes of a season. They're kind of connected, but they're very much also have their own arc in it. So it is essentially 3 movies kind of connected. And some seasons are more connected than others, but it's cool. That would be cool.
It's more viewed. I feel like each season can be viewed as its own trilogy. You have a through line story, but as you said, Casey, each has their own individual arc.
See, I think I would like that.
That is very cool. And just in a side note about Sherlock, what's crazy and cool about that is, I don't know, it's like 4 or 5 seasons now, Hannah, I think.
I think it's about 4. I don't know.
Over the course of, 10 years now, they revisit it every 2 years, like a year and a half, 2 years or so, just because they're both working actors.
Yeah, and since they're long episodes, it takes longer to shoot those.
And they had like a Christmas special, I think, and then they haven't done one in a couple of years, 2-3 years now, but
I think they're done.
Yeah, probably.
I think Sherlock wrapped up, but they also had that huge break because Benedict and Martin were both in The Hobbit.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So there was a huge wait period, and of course that was also I'm going to mess this name up, but the fall of Reichstag Fall.
I don't know.
Anyway, I think that was the third episode in season.
I'm not good with episode titles.
Basically, it was a huge cliffhanger, and everyone had to wait even longer,
right,
for that to be resolved.
Actually, that could get annoying.
Hopefully they wouldn't do that.
It got very annoying for Sherlock fans.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. That was cool.
So anyway, don't worry about it. We are getting an Obi-Wan series that is still going to come on Disney Plus at some point.
Yay!
Yay!
Exactly. The one story that everybody wants.
I know.
Been wanting.
Amen to that. Why did it take so long for them to finally do this?
I don't know. I I still think they should have made that movie instead of Han,
right?
Instead of the Solo movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They felt like Han was gonna, I guess, go first, and I don't know. But
it was still a good movie.
I liked it. I liked it. So, changes to the Star Wars show. For those of you guys watch that every week on YouTube, Star Wars' YouTube channel. It is now going to move. It's going. I didn't realize it's like 5th season. They've been doing it for 5 years. Yeah, this is a 5th season. So they are changing the format of the Star Wars show. They are going to monthly on the Star Wars show. So the last Wednesday of every month, you'll get a longer version show. So it'll be about 20 minutes. And they have excluded the news segment, which is what they usually start the show off with. And they have spun that off into a show called Weekly on Star Wars, which will be every Thursday on their YouTube channel. And that's only about 2 to 3 minutes. It's all full of just news. In fact, I'm sorry, it's called This Week in Star Wars.
This Week.
So you got Star Wars show at the end of every month on Wednesdays, but every Thursday you have This Week in Star Wars, which is just focused on all the news. And that is hosted by, I had it on.
I just forgot.
Was it Kristen Baver? I think. I'm looking at her. I'm watching it right now real quick.
But you said she's also got a segment in like a roundtable segment, I think, in the Star Wars show.
Yes. So the Star Wars show looks like it's going to be structured in a way that they will do. Yeah, Kristen Baver. See, I was right.
Whoa.
So Kristen Baver will also be on the Star Wars show. They will do. Looks like they will, because they released an episode yesterday, the first episode. They had a. I'll probably butcher his name, so I'll just go with his
Stranger Things.
Dustin from
his name is Gatton.
Gayton. I think it's Gayton.
Gayton
right?
Mazzarello.
Yes,
like that.
very good. Dustin, right from Stranger Things. So they did a big interview with him. So they're longer interviews, and then they did a behind the scenes thing where they showed us a bunch of props again from Rise of Skywalker, and then they did a roundtable that Kristen hosted, which was a lot other Lucasfilm employees talking about what they do and how they contributed to certain things that are out there. It's pretty neat. And the roundtable shot really well, like 4 different cameras and different angles. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, I don't know. Personally, I liked the shorter 8-10-minute episodes, because 20 is pretty good long episode. I mean, that's
watch it in chunks.
Yeah. I don't know. You watch the Star Wars show, Hannah?
I'm starting to get more into that. Personally, I actually wasn't really fully aware that it was out there.
Yeah.
Well,
I was more of a, what are some theories out there? What are random people's finding? Yeah. Okay, let me research that and see if that's actually true. So
I don't really stay up to date with the Star Wars show. I usually just catch recaps on my news sites to see who they interviewed, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I've been watching it pretty much, but I definitely don't watch it right when it comes out. Yeah. I'll catch it on the weekend or something like that. But
right.
But most of the news you kind of hit up, you get in your Twitter feed and stuff like that.
They don't break. At least unless they do it now. But they didn't really break news too often.
Too often, no. Only major stuff,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna finish up our discussions on the Rise of Skywalker now. We got a couple more little topics that weren't. If you go back to listen to our last 4 weeks, we hit some major topics throughout the episodes. Basically, what our feelings were about Rey Palpatine, what our feelings about the Knights of Ren, Luke, Leia, all those things. So each week we kind of focused on those type of topics. This week we'll do more of a summary of things. Maybe even throw some random questions out here. But first off, with every one of our guests, we've always had them start, Hannah, with your overall kind of impressions of the Rise of Skywalker.
Overall impression, it's definitely my favorite out of the new trilogy. To me, I don't know, and I'm sure I'm sounding like a broken record player, but it felt the most Star Warsy out of the three.
Yeah.
I know some people out there disagree, but I love Ben's whole character arc, and I love his redemption at the end. I think, and this wasn't Brian or JJ's fault, but I think JJ had a lot to try to bridge between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. And I think he did a really good job of communicating that through action, through dialogue, through images, without making it sound so exposition heavy. I also love how we explored the Force even more. That's something I wish when the prequels came out, they did more of that, because the novels really do explore the Force in ways that would be so cool to see on the big screen. So overall, I loved the movie. It's probably in my top 3 favorite Star Wars movies. I think maybe my biggest complaint, and I don't even know if it's justified, because I know there's a time hop between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, but at the end of the movie, you get the feeling that Rey is really close to Poe.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't really feel like that's justified. I totally get Rey and Finn having a close relationship, Finn and Poe, Rey and Poe, because we didn't get to see a lot of that interaction like we did with Finn. It didn't make that much sense to me, but that's a nitpicky point. And I'm also still a little unsure about C-3PO losing his memory. I'm still a little, I don't know. Part of me feels like that disrespected the character a bit, but the other part of me was okay story-wise with it.
The fact that he lost it, or the fact that he lost it and got it back. You just didn't like that he lost his memory?
Yes, how they how they got rid of his memory.
Yeah.
Although I thought it would have been really cool if C-3PO all of a sudden turned into this Sith fighting droid.
Right.
That would have been,
yeah.
That would have been interesting.
They would have had to destroy him then.
Yeah. Shut
Right.
him down.
Yeah. No, good. All good, valid points. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, we'll get into kind of our final wrap-up thoughts here in a little bit, but that's good. The biggest thing I want to know, and this may open up a big discussion, hopefully, but I kind of want everybody to kind of think about, now that this thing has been out for a while and kind of settled in everybody's minds, and the fact that we've gotten some peeks at possibly different storylines of what the Rise of Skywalker, or even this entire sequel trilogy, could have been, by kind of now hearing what Colin Trevorrow's episode 9 would have been, what JJ had some director scenes or maybe extra scenes.
Yes.
The whole thing about what did Lucas have actually. So I guess the question is if there's anything right now you would change about this movie or the entire trilogy, what are some of the things that you would have liked to have seen or changed to make that you feel like could have made it more just better for fans in a sense? I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay, you go first.
So I think, looking back, to be honest, one of my biggest things now that I wish could have been done from the beginning of this sequel trilogy, I would have liked to see actually the fall of Ben Solo, instead of just in those flashbacks.
Yeah.
I almost to the fact that the first movie could have been more about his fall, and then there was would have been a gap.
Yeah.
And then I think because I keep saying on here that Force Awakens and The Last Jedi just, to me, almost feel like one big movie. Because there's no gap, so to me, that you could have like dumped a bunch of scenes out of those two movies and made it one movie, and that could have been the middle movie. And then you have kind of the Rise of Skywalker. So and the only reason I really say that, because when I look back at the original trilogy and then this trilogy, I'm starting to see just the same path as Darth Vader. You know, like when you first watched A New Hope and you never saw the prequels, you're just intimidated by this person in black. You have no idea what his background is. You just accept that this guy's evil and looking to, kill everybody. But then you find out, he has kids, and could he be redeemed, and and all that stuff. And it's a great story it's a great story of Darth Vader, not really Anakin, just Darth Vader. But so going into this one, it's very similar. When we first walked in The Force Awakens, like I had no idea he was Ben Solo.
Right.
I didn't have any idea who he was, right? We just knew his name was Kylo Ren. So all of a sudden, I remember hearing when Snoke is like, your father. But I'm like, what? Like, what? We should have known, I guess, because we were thinking the whole Skywalker twins, and
it was a thought.
Solo twins.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was surprised when I heard that, and I just, it did change a little. It was a little different in the path of Vader because he ends up becoming the master, and that's and so in a way. But I think it would have been really neat to see his fall before he gets redeemed in a sense. That's kind of my first major change I would have done. There's other little things. Of course, there's scenes where I'll say, Canto Bight. Like I just don't know if that would have really should have been in there. I would have probably changed that. I would have kept. I think Hannah, you kind of just said this. I would have actually kept. Those three together more. Poe, Finn, and Rey.
Yeah.
And seen them more and seen them develop together more, because Poe, and Finn. Even like you said, even though they had a more relationship, I think in Force Awakens, but in The Last Jedi, they're not really together in Last Jedi. You know, Finn goes and does his thing, and Poe's on the ship still doing his thing, and and granted, like you said, there was that year between 8 and 9, so there's definitely relationship development and all that stuff there. But we never questioned that with the original trilogy because those three seemed like they were always together.
We always saw it. Yeah.
So anyway, that's one of the first things I would probably look at is doing those couple things like that.
I definitely the sense of adventure with our team of people is part of it because, like for me, that's what I always think of for Star Wars is you usually have a group of people that experience an adventure together. Now, but the prequels are a little different, but you still at least have your cast of characters that interact throughout all the movies, but they're not necessarily in the same ship all the time together, like the original three are. But you still have your group of characters that always interact. Whereas, in Force Awakens, it's Finn and Rey for a time, then Poe and Finn for a time, and then Pete, they're all split up pretty much. The Book of Last Jedi, and Rey meets Poe for the first time at the end of Last Jedi. So that was kind of weird, and very much glad that Rise of Skywalker corrected that.
Right.
If that had happened all through, that would have been awesome. I think putting I think a lot of people agree with this though. Putting the original three people together in the first one, The Force Awakens, having something, whether it was a flashback or it didn't matter to me how you did it, but that was one of my speculations going into Rise of Skywalker is that they were going to somehow do a flashback with the original three.
Yes,
absolutely,
and they were going to digitally make them all look younger. That was kind of my thought there, but we got something comparable to that, which was still awesome with Luke and Leia, but and Han Solo was in it, but just not together. So it kind of happened, but not really. That would have been cool. That would have been really cool. But no, I think maybe the biggest thing I think a little more connectivity to the prequels would have been nice. I know Trevorrow had Coruscant in his script. That would have been awesome in Rise of Skywalker. But not just Rise of Skywalker. I would like to have had it somehow in all three.
Play a part.
Something, something play a part in all three. I mean, since Force Awakens, we kept thinking like, okay, they showed us Hosnian Prime as the government, which is fine if the government body moved to a different planet. But how can you not recognize Coruscant? That's especially so. This kind of ties into my biggest thing I would have changed is if they had tied the Emperor into kind of all three films somehow.
Yes,
laying the groundwork. I mean, obviously it wasn't planned. Everybody's fully aware now. It wasn't planned. But everybody's hopping on the bandwagon saying that that's like the biggest fault. It's like, it's so obvious and it's a horrible movie because it feels unplanned. Like, okay, calm down. So, that's true, but it doesn't hurt the movie. Like what JJ did with what he had, I think pulled it off. Like Emperor's inclusion into the film worked. It did work. It could have been better, obviously, if they had planned it, but and that's my change, is that if they should have planned it. I love the Emperor being a part of it. I just wish they had lay the groundwork deliberately in Force Awakens, and part of that could have been going to Coruscant, seeing his throne room there, which was the converted Jedi temple to his throne room, and there's a Sith temple underneath all that. So it's like they could have used that. That's been canon for a while. They could have used that to lay the groundwork for bringing the Emperor back. That would have been really cool.
It would have been cool.
Yeah. So, and that's just kind of my thing with the movies overall. It's like, obviously the story group and Lucasfilm, they give the filmmakers freedom to kind of shape the stories however they want, really, and kind of create new canon themselves. But I wish that there was more. And kind of like story group has to kind of like work canon around what they do in some ways, but I wish there was more intertwining of filmmakers using pre-established canon to kind of help bridge the gap. Because now we get certain weird things of like, and it's kind of nitpicky, but like the jetpacks, like stormtrooper jetpacks, and it seems like Poe doesn't know what they were, but he should have. It's little things like that I could totally get past, but it's also a small thing that should have been talked about, if at all. But anyways, that's kind of a nitpicky thing. But more inclusion, more Emperor, more connectivity with all the eras. That's my thing.
Yeah. What you got, Hannah?
Well, sort of to bounce off the Palpatine thing, I think the one change that would have helped, which Dave, you mentioned this, I forget when, but you mentioned this, and now that you've mentioned it, I really want it, is so I think it was at the end of Phantom Menace. At the end of the credits, you hear Darth Vader's breathing. So at the end of the credits of The Last Jedi, have Palpatine give his message.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That would have been cool. Yes.
Yeah.
And that would have helped connect everything. So that's one change that would help. Another thing, and I don't know why it bothers me, but at the end, I would have loved to have seen Palpatine take out a saber and fight Rey. Yeah. Like, not this lightning on saber. I mean, you tried that once, man, and it failed.
Yeah.
It failed.
Doing the same combo every time.
So either Rey goes to Force Lightning, or Palpatine goes to saber. And then to add a little extra flair, because you have, and this is just me just going for it, just add a little bit of flair, have Rey all of a sudden change her fighting stance, and you see, I don't know, the Force Ghost of Anakin take over her. And then on Palpatine's side, you see the Force Ghost of Darth Maul or Count Dooku take over. And then Rey changes her fighting stance again, and you see Obi-Wan, and then Dooku changes to Maul. Like, so it kind of gives like a curtain call, but it also adds emphasis to all of the Sith are in Palpatine, all of the Jedi are in Rey, and you have this epic battle between all the Jedi and all the Sith. Now, I don't know if they would have done that, but I think it would have been cool.
No, totally. Yeah, and I'll kind of expand on where I was going to again with, so with if we would have saw in say The Force Awakens with Ben, falling and converting to the dark side there, it just reminded me what you were saying, Casey, because I think you could have laid the groundwork there that what influenced that. Mm-hmm. What was influencing that? Now we kind of know that it was Snoke, but really you could have introduced Palpatine, kind of behind the scenes, more or less doing that, and then that's where you get the time gap, right? You have Luke disgraced, temple's destroyed. You still have whatever conclusion you come to, but then that gap between Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, it would then start off with The Last Jedi, like Luke is gone, like Luke has vanished.
Yes.
And then now they have to find him. And then that's the Force Awakens, The Last Jedi combo combined, where you find him. Now get this. This is where I would love it the most. Luke survives. Mm-hmm. And he's in the Rise of Skywalker. And, Palpatine comes back. And then, so it's Palpatine and Kylo against Luke and Rey.
Yeesh. Yeah, that'd be very
dang.
Right? Because think about it. It's uncle and nephew, father or grandfather and granddaughter. So it's like Luke is finally lightsaber fighting Palpatine, because we've never seen that. Mm-hmm. And then you get the final battle between Rey and Kylo. And because I'm not about the redemption. I'm just not about the redemption. I'm more about Luke's triumph at truly defeating the Sith. Fulfilling his father's destiny in a sense again. I just would have loved to see that. You just imagine that combo: Rey and Luke on one side, Palpatine, Kylo on the. I mean, man,
that'd be epic. Yeah,
that would have been crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I like Ben's redemption.
Yeah, I know. I know everybody does.
Sorry, that's just. But I mean, why stop there? Why not? Because one thing in the they're not canon anymore, but in the novels is you have Leia and Han's their twins, Jason and Jaina.
Yeah.
Why not have that type of dealio? Have Rey and Ben be siblings, or Rey and Kylo be siblings. So then you still get this intimate relationship in the sense of Rey feels her brother constantly being tortured by the dark side, and she herself is trying to stay light. And then you have Luke trying to deal with his niece and nephew and trying to get that all figured out. So
I definitely would have loved that, right? And I felt like I held out hope that they did have some kind of sibling, even though they were different ages. They maybe not have been twins, but they could have been siblings still.
Same. Yeah.
So I held out hope for that for a long time, and
yes,
I really, up until the Rise of Skywalker, I still thought it could be a possibility.
Possible,
yes.
Especially when we were getting all these stories where Han and Leia weren't really married. I mean, they were married, but they weren't really together.
Kind of separated.
Yeah,
yeah.
And there was that comic story where he had a wife.
Yeah,
that really kind of.
Yeah.
But while he was starting a relationship with Leia, and it's just it wouldn't have been surprising that he had a different daughter, or maybe she had another daughter. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
right.
Who knows, man?
Who knows?
It's a crazy galaxy out there.
But the other thing too is we know that Ben is really good with controlling people's minds, and so what's not to say he erased Han and Leia's memory of having a daughter.
Oh man!
Who's to say he didn't erase his sister's memory to the point where she doesn't even remember her name?
Oh,
she
man.
picks the name Rey, and that's why he's so obsessed with her, because it's his sister. And the reason why he didn't kill her when he went to kill all the other Jedi, the reason why he stopped the Knights of Ren from killing her is from Rey's vision, where she's standing in front of Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren. The reason why he didn't kill her is that it's his sister. He couldn't bring himself to do that. Hence why killing Han Solo is so much more significant. He couldn't kill his sister, therefore he killed his father.
I really like the mind wipe.
I do too.
That's
because that explains that. I mean, he left her on Jakku, raced her mind, and left.
That would explain. That would be a perfect explanation. that would have been great. Because
and
why
suddenly his memory power goes away in The Last Jedi. You know, it's. But anyway, that's what I was rooting for the beginning.
Wow,
that's pretty cool.
Really good. But see, like that, there's no way he can be redeemed for doing that.
So, and there's the thing too about Trevorrow's story. People, are kind of like praising it and saying like this is how Kylo's story should have gone. Because it appears that he doesn't get redeemed in that, but he does, but just really at the very end of his life. In Trevorrow's story. So that's where more so maybe you would have liked that more, Dave, where he pretty much is the villain. He's pretty much the big bad throughout all of it and it kind of happens the same way, but again, right up till the end, like he's about to kill Rey, and then all of a sudden I think it's kind of the same where Leia reaches out and then he has this moment he's like sucking the life out of Rey, and so he gives it back to Rey and he gives his own life to Rey. Kylo dies. So it's really at the last moment of his life is he redeemed. But that's really Vader. That's a really Vader kind of mirror.
I was just about to say.
But that would have been cool. But where he is pretty much the bad guy, but a little redeemed.
So, what were you about to say, Hannah?
Oh no! I just was. I was just about to say, like that is such a Vader moment. That's all.
Yes. So before we kind of get into maybe our rankings, final rankings of this Skywalker saga. Closing thoughts, really, truly, to what we did get, which was what is out there in the Rise of Skywalker and the sequel trilogy. I think as we look at this thing as a whole of what it was, I'll say the same thing. I think Rise of Skywalker was very, very good. I think it was definitely, in my book, the best of the three. I think that I do think going back and watching, because since it's been out, I've gone back and watched The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and it does truly change the perception of it a little bit, because you obviously have knowledge of where it's going to go, and you kind of do sense that these characters, even though they may not have known the timeline or their arcs, but they, I think they were good enough to carry what they did know at the time, and follow it through. Especially Rey. I do think Rey is an extraordinary character. I think that now knowing that she is a Palpatine and hence now a Skywalker in a sense, I think it does just add more weight to the relevancy of her character and what she means to the entire saga. Because if she was a nobody, which would have been completely fine, but it would have felt to me a little out of place from what the through line for all three of these trilogies was.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Skywalker saga.
Correct.
So.
And Palpatine being a big part of that in the big bad. So it does make sense to me, and I think it does, again, add more weight to when you start watching The Force Awakens, knowing that this woman is important truly to the story.
Yeah.
So, and in all honesty, The Last Jedi has gotten a little better in my eyes because of this as well. There are definitely parts that I still can't agree with, but the Force stuff with Kylo and Rey and Luke, it is really good stuff. And
yes,
yeah, and I rewatched the part where he comes at the end and sits there with Leia. I mean, that is a powerful scene.
Yeah,
that is a powerful scene. So in the end, before I rank the individual movies, I saw people on Twitter ranking the trilogies, like
yes,
1, 2, and 3. Like which one's 1, 2, and 3? I think I'm at. I think the original trilogy is still number 1 for me, and I would put this number 2, and then the prequels 3. Unfortunately, even though when you hear my movie rankings, it's a little more mixed, but the original trilogy, I really still love The Empire Strikes Back, and I really do like Return of the Jedi a lot. So that's why. I mean, this one's pretty much right behind it, but this trilogy is right behind it. But it's I would do the original. So I don't know. Case thoughts, final thoughts.
Goodness gracious! Before I get to ranking.
Yeah,
I can't think of one. I don't know. I've talked so much about this movie. Of course,
Well,
I mean, there's a lot more obviously we could say about it. I'm very happy with the sequel trilogy. Very happy. I have kind of gotten past a lot of stuff from Last Jedi. Not saying that I I forgive what's happened, but I still think my opinion of the film is still the same. I'm now okay with its shortcomings, I guess. But I think with time, I think it'll get better. With time, people will love it. New generations will love it even more because they won't be tied to the legacy that all of us know or have with the films, really. Because whether you grew up with the originals or you grew up with the prequels, you have a certain legacy going into the sequel trilogy, which could really bias your view of it. So that happened with Last Jedi. Especially if you grew up watching the original. So this new generation coming in, kind of stuff, are growing up when they can watch all these films all at once. I just think they're going to see it so differently. And so everybody's opinion, my opinion of Last Jedi, although I think there are some just fundamental story issues with it, but that has also Attack of the Clones. And I love Attack of the Clones so much more now. Than I used to. So even though it's still low on the list, but I still appreciate it, and I can sit through it now without just rolling my eyes in certain parts. Because it's just, and I'm so happy I'm at this place now of enlightenment. But so it's I think that will be the case with Last Jedi. The sequel trilogy is great. I think they definitely. Again, going back to, I wish they talked more about the through line of each of these films, because even though they didn't talk about what's going to happen, Emperor and all that stuff, yes, Rey's still a great character, like you said, Dave. Kylo's still an awesome character.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, gosh, he's probably my favorite. The best character, in my opinion, although my favorite, Han Solo is my favorite. Ben Kenobi's my favorite. But Kylo is such a well-established and written character, and Adam Driver takes it up 1,000 notches. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So ranking it all, I like you, Dave. Yeah, and just thinking, I gravitate more towards the original trilogy as a whole trilogy, just because it's so nostalgic and it sets the stage of what Star Wars means, and obviously it doesn't deviate from Star Wars because that is the core of Star Wars, is the original trilogy. So it goes original trilogy, then sequel trilogy, and then prequel trilogy. But Rise of Skywalker. Are we going to get into the rankings of the films later?
Yes.
Or are we going to go ahead and say?
We're going to end. No,
okay,
we're going to end with the
then
ranking after Hannah.
Then I'll wait. Yeah.
So final thoughts. I'm actually going to contradict you guys a bit here.
No.
So Rey.
This is our show.
Yeah.
You can't know.
So, okay, sorry. So guys, this will probably be my last show. It was nice knowing you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So with Rey.
Yes.
She could have been an awesome character.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I agree that there was a lot of consistency with Kylo Ren, Ben Solo throughout all three movies. I agree with that. With Rey, I feel like it just was so inconsistent. And while I'm all for a strong female protagonist, I gotta say, I felt like it was really heavy-handed in The Force Awakens. I was a little annoyed. I was a little bit like, why are we hoorah Rey women? Let's just subtly do this. Okay, I get it. She's an independent woman who don't need no man. I get it. Let's move on. It got to the point where it annoyed me as a woman. I just was kind of like, man, you could have done so much better with her. And it's not Daisy's fault. I think she did an excellent job with the character. Mm-hmm. I think it just didn't help to have a different director, different everything, honestly, with The Last Jedi, because that's where it got really disjointed for me. So also because of that, I would actually rank the trilogies, obviously the original, then the prequels, then the most recent trilogy.
Cool. Nice. Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Going on Rey, although I do see a lot of points what you said, I think her weakest movie though is Last Jedi. I don't think she grows at all, and she's like not.
Well, it's because I agree with that. I agree 150% with that, and that's why it bothered me so much. Yeah. The first movie was heavy-handed. The second movie had zippity doo dah, and the third movie, I was like, finally. Finally.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. and that's why I've always argued that I think when you don't have those time jumps, you can't grow those characters. If that's a literally continuation from the end of the movie to the beginning of the movie, it's just the next scene. There is no really full growth in a way, because even though the original trilogy, the prequels, even Anakin from episode 1 to episode 2, even though there's 10 years there. You get a sense that the kid has grown up and learned so much.
Right.
You already get that sense. Here, Rey goes from leaving, fighting Kylo and saving or helping destroy Starkiller Base, immediately into finding Luke on Ahch-To, but she there wasn't any more growth before she did that. So she didn't learn more about the Force, or she didn't learn more history about what happened and all that stuff. Right. So she just knew the same thing. Anyway, so I agree with that. But it's interesting, Hannah, because again, a woman's perspective to view a woman character like that is I feel like it would be criminal if me and Casey said stuff like that. But
No, it's not. It's just a different perspective. That's all it is.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, I think that makes sense. Because again, I think with a woman's look at it, I think you may look at it differently than we look at it. But because I think that every trilogy that we've gotten from Star Wars has had a strong female character in it.
Yes.
I mean, Leia being obviously probably the most prominent and most important one, but Padme. Yeah, the Queen. What would you say?
No, I just mean she was a queen.
Oh, totally. But literally the Queen Amidala, she was a massive character in the prequel trilogy. I mean, one of my favorites as well, especially with seeing what she's done in the Clone Wars also. Yeah. So
yes,
love her character. And then, of course, now, we have Rey in this trilogy. And to me, in my opinion, probably the weakest of the three as far as characters goes, even though I think Rey is a good character. But
yes,
when you put her up against Padme and Leia, I think George created two very, very strong characters in those women. So, of course, look, we're going to talk about the Rise of Skywalker a lot more, I'm sure, in the coming year because, especially when it gets finally released on digital and everybody starts watching it again. There's, like you said, but I do think the feeling of it, very similar to Last Jedi, I think it will get better. I mean,
definitely.
Look! It made it. It's up to. I just wrote it down. It's up to $1,048,859,000 worldwide. So it's a $1 billion movie. It's a success, even though it has not made as much as The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens. But I think it is going to be one of those, and according to Rotten Tomatoes, it's the lowest rated of all 9 films. Actually, of all 11 films. Yeah.
It's hard to believe it.
What?
I guess.
Well,
I
it's
looked at it.
The critic ones.
Yeah.
The critic. Audience rating, it's like 89.
Oh, okay.
Critic, it's like 51, I think, and that's the lowest of all 11 movies.
Surprising. That's surprising.
That is.
Is it really surprising?
Yes, because it's like I just feel like there are objective things you can say about these films and how if they're flawed objectively, and I just don't see how critics can collectively say Rise of Skywalker is objectively flawed more than either Last Jedi or Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, right.
Agreed.
I don't see that. and I
don't either.
I hate to say opinions are wrong, but it's like that's kind of wrong. But I don't want to say that.
Yeah,
you can believe what you want to believe.
Okay, so final thing here. If you haven't done it yet, think about it. Let's rank. Yeah. What is your ranking right now? The end of January here, 2020. What is your ranking of Star Wars films? Now, do you want to go from best first to last or last to first?
Oh, good gosh. I guess bottom of the list
to
the top.
Bottom to top. And are we including the side stories?
Or just saga films?
This is just the sagas.
Okay. Just the saga.
9 films.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's where I'm at. I'm at bottom to top. Bottom being, which is still unfortunate because I do like this movie.
That's
Attack of the Clones.
That's the thing, yeah.
The Last Jedi, The Phantom Menace, A New Hope, Force Awakens, Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Rise of Skywalker, The Empire Strikes Back. So for those counting at home, it's Episode 2, 8, 1, then 4, 7, 6, then 3, 9, 5. Mm-hmm. So as you can see, I've got a mixed, old trilogy, prequel trilogy, sequel trilogy, because again, my first 3 films are one from each of them. So, that's where I'm at. I think, and Rise of Skywalker may end up taking the top spot at some point after I watch it more and more. But right now, The Empire Strikes Back by far is still the strongest of the films. I think Yoda is obviously one of my favorite characters, if not, it's basically my favorite character. Even though the child is moving up there. I'm joking.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at. I think Empire is still a strong film. But Rise could get up there. So that's, as of right now, that's where I'm at.
We're close, I guess. Our top and bottoms are kind of close. So I guess starting from the bottom, I'll do Attack of the Clones, which it's like I like it better, but even though I just recently saw it, I'm like, that still is kind of weird. I don't know. like Padme is great, but she comes across as kind of mean, and not necessarily mean throughout that movie. Like we're really rude to Anakin a lot of the time. So it's like, wow, it's weird.
Yeah.
So Attack of the Clones, Last Jedi, Phantom Menace, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith. Then the top 3, we have Force Awakens, Rise of Skywalker, Empire. So 2, 8, 1, 4, 6, 3, 7, 9, 5.
Yeah, so you just move. You have
our
Force Awakens
really,
up to 3, and the other 2 pushed down.
Our middle's
so that's close. Yeah,
around.
That's close.
And it's like when I think back to the originals, like I know that will get higher. Like 6 and 4, I know it could easily just be higher on my list.
Yeah,
give it some time.
Yeah. Okay, Hannah. Moment of truth.
All right. Okay. 1 second here. Okay. So, worst or least favorite, Phantom Menace. Mm-hmm. Then Attack of the Clones, Last Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, Force Awakens, The Return of the Jedi, New Hope, The Rise of Skywalker, Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So you've got, if I got this right, so you got 2.
No,
I'm sorry, 1, 8. Did we?
You had the prequels all at the bottom, didn't you?
Yeah, I had 1, 2, 8, 3, 7, 6, 4, 9, 5.
Okay, so cool. So you got the original, the first film in your top 3. That's good. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. I like that. I mean, I remember seeing Revenge of the Sith, and that movie. Even though I know a lot of people have flaws with it, but I just remember seeing that epic lightsaber battle and the relationship with Obi-Wan and Anakin still goes a long way with me.
Because
again, they're together in that movie at the very beginning, and when they say goodbye to each other, and he goes off to Utapau, and and then when they meet up back on Mustafar, it's like it's epic, man. It is so epic.
Each trilogy really has a good couple of lines that you just feel. Like "I love you, I know." And Vader, when Vader says to Luke that if you can't turn, so will your sister, and then Luke just
goes off.
What he says, that's gosh, and then Kylo's got some great lines to Rey at the but Revenge of the Sith, it's like when Obi-Wan says, "You're my brother," Anakin, I loved you. You felt that. I felt that, and then also. Even though, at the time even though I love Hayden Christensen now, at the time, of course, I was on the bandwagon of, I hate Hayden Christensen when the movies are coming out. So I was like, he's such a bad actor, but I'm totally opposite now. But when he said, I hate you, when he said, I hate you, when he's burning there, or about to burn at the end of Revenge of the Sith, like, you felt that. I thought that was a fantastic moment. Just pure, raw emotion there, which is great. But it's good. I loved it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good relationship.
Yeah. All right. So that's our rankings for the Skywalker Saga, which is now over, and now we are in full waiting period now for our next Star Wars film that we have no idea when it's coming. I mean, it's tentatively set for December of 2022, but don't know if that's going to happen. Don't know when the announcement's going to be. Hopefully they announce something before Celebration, but if not, Celebration will probably be where we're getting that, and that is happening in August of this year, which, according to our countdown on InsideTheForce.com, is 209 days away. But the big thing right now is we are 21 days from the final season of the Clone Wars.
Finally.
Yes. February 21st, it will drop on Disney Plus. I'm assuming for the next 12 weeks after that, unless they double up some releases. I doubt it, but but that is what we are going to focus on next month, mainly in February, leading up to the release. I plan on going back and starting to watch some more episodes. There's just so much to kind of refresh your memory on. I mean, it hasn't been on the air in 10 years almost, right? No, it started in 2009. So about 5 years. So about 5 years.
5 or 6.
I think it ended in 12 in the buyout.
Because Rebels started the same year that ended.
Rebels started in
they had
2013,
they had 4
I think.
seasons, and Resistance had 2 seasons. So it's been about 6 years.
It's been about 6 years. I mean, we got the Lost Missions a little bit after it
that's
closed.
True, too.
So maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
But that's still a long time for a last season to come up, and can't wait for it to come back, because this is, I mean, again, if you've been a long-time listener to this show, we have said 1,000 times how much that we were disappointed that it didn't get a proper ending, and I cannot, I truly cannot believe they let him go back and do this.
That's
to be honest,
that's so awesome. Yeah,
but this is one of the things where it truly seems like a fan-driven,
totally,
concept, because the whole hashtag Clone Wars saved. I mean, they put that in the trailer when they announced it.
And that's what Filoni said that. James Arnold Taylor has said that, where it's only because the fans have screamed to get it back. That's so great.
And I can't wait to start speculating about, because he was able to go and do Rebels. Now he has the opportunity to actually truly connect those shows.
Oh, yes.
Look at the trailer. There's a young Kanan. Yeah. Caleb Doom.
Caleb Doom,
standing there. Is there some kind of connection with, I mean, obviously we're getting Ahsoka in there. I don't know what other connections fully you can get besides Kanan, but I doubt we'll see the birth of Ezra. I mean, he's actually born on Empire Day.
I mean, you can potentially, if they ever do Ryloth, you can see young Hera again.
You could.
We have already seen her in Clone Wars, right? Didn't we see it? We didn't know at the time, obviously.
We didn't know at the time, but I don't know if that was Hera because she wasn't green.
I can't remember. Anyways, we could see young Hera in this.
You could see young Hera.
That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, so there's things that you could, there's things that you can possibly connect, but I don't know. We'll see. Hannah, really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor. Truly appreciate it.
Aww.
Yeah, you will have a lot more opportunities. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a great month where we've broken down the last Skywalker film here, the Rise of Skywalker. Again, we'll talk more about it as this thing gets re-released and on digital, I'm sure, and we all get to watch it more and more and more and see where it kind of falls. But yeah, that's it for this week. Again, check us out next week when we start going with discussions on the Clone Wars as we lead up to that. Anything else you guys want to listen to, let us know. Just a short little plug for the Mandalorian podcast, the Mandalore podcast that I'm doing, co-hosting with Martin. We haven't done too many episodes because it's over, but we actually had a bunch of fans write in about some questions and stuff like that they want answered. So if you want to look at that, follow that show. We'll be putting out a few more before the season comes back later in August of this year, season 2 of The Mandalorian. Other than that, we'll be back each week here to talk all Star Wars. So thanks again to Hannah.
Thank you.
Anything else, Case?
I don't think so, man.
Okay, well, he's Casey Cooley.
Goodbye, everybody.
I'm Dave. May the Force be with you.